Reports indicate that Tesla plans to replace all other components with those manufactured outside of China within the next year or two. Musk's Tesla has required suppliers to exclude Chinese-made components from its US-made cars, coupled with the recent unstable and escalating surrounding environment. Is this Musk already preparing for the worst-case scenario, or perhaps he already knows something?
或许他已经知道了些什么消息。
你敢相信吗？如果马斯
Can you believe it? If Musk announced Tesla's withdrawal from China today, those domestically produced new energy vehicles would dare to double their price tomorrow. The same goes for oil prices. When international prices rise, theirs rise, claiming it's due to international influence. When international prices fall, theirs don't, saying they're different from the international market.
他说他和国际不一样。
The US-China trade dispute and geopolitical tensions have made tariff fluctuations a risk that companies cannot ignore. American electric vehicle giant Tesla has decided to eliminate Chinese-made parts from US-made cars gradually and requires suppliers to find alternative sources. The goal is to achieve complete non-Chinese parts within the next 1 to 2 years. This move is not only an adjustment in corporate strategy but also a microcosm of changes in the global supply chain landscape.
继特斯拉之后，通用也开始了。
Following Tesla, GM has also started this. Simply put, it requires upstream and downstream suppliers to completely stop purchasing raw materials and parts from China by 2027, while finding alternative products and even completing this a year ahead of schedule.
要提前1年完成。
特斯拉带头去中化，真相太现实，家人们注意了。
Tesla leads the way in decoupling from China. The truth is too real. Attention everyone, Tesla's actions can no longer be hidden. They are demanding that suppliers replace all Chinese parts within 1 or 2 years. General Motors is even more ruthless, setting a deadline of the end of 2027 to eliminate all Chinese parts. This isn't just the whims of one company. Now American and European companies are following suit. Apple is moving its production lines to India. Nike is moving 50% of its footwear production out of China. And even Starbucks is selling its stake in its China business.
都在卖中国业务的股权。
Why are these companies doing this? They are trying to reduce their dependence on China for key technologies. Since the pandemic disrupted China's supply chain, Tesla has been pushing for parts diversification, encouraging Chinese suppliers to set up factories in Mexico and other locations. But what truly accelerated this process is the high tariffs imposed by President Trump on Chinese imports this year. Tesla is deeply concerned about the potential for hefty tariffs, which would significantly increase costs by using Chinese parts, potentially driving up car prices and making them unsellable. Therefore, they have proactively withdrawn their entire supply chain from China to mitigate future risks. Tesla is not only eliminating Chinese components but also adjusting its battery supply chain. Previously, CATL was its primary supplier of lithium iron phosphate batteries. However, Tesla has clearly stated that its US manufacturing operations will no longer use batteries from this Chinese company, and plans to establish a domestic production base in Nevada, expected to begin production in 2026.
别动不动就让特斯拉滚出中国。
Don't just tell Tesla, Volkswagen, Audi, and Toyota to get out of China. Supporting domestic products is fine. Let me tell you, if they leave China, you won't even be able to afford a domestically produced car. Without Apple phones, you wouldn't be able to afford Huawei phones. Without Pepsi, you wouldn't be able to afford the domestic beverages. If foreign oil companies were allowed into China, our oil price would be only $0.50 per liter. Without Volkswagen, Toyota, and Audi, we would face the unemployment of hundreds of thousands of people. So don't use patriotism as a pretext to suppress joint ventures. The Chinese market needs balance and competition. If the market were truly monopolized by domestic cars, most of us would go back to riding bicycles. Do you believe it?
回去蹬自行车，你信不？
Tesla has suffered a major setback in the Chinese market in recent years, with declining sales, shrinking market share, and constant pressure from the rise of strong domestic companies. Industry insiders point out that Tesla's predicament is not an isolated case, but rather another typical example of foreign companies falling into the so-called nurturing and harvesting pattern in China. In 2019, Tesla CEO Elon Musk attended the groundbreaking ceremony for the Shanghai Gigafactory. The Chinese government rolled out a red carpet for him, and the media even hailed him as igniting China's electric vehicle industry. At the time, Tesla was seen as a model for foreign investment in China. However, just 6 years later, the situation has drastically changed. Chinese consumers have gradually shifted to cheaper and more feature-rich domestic brands, with BYD and Xiaomi Auto rapidly rising to prominence. In early 2025, BYD sales reached 480,000 vehicles in 2 months, a year-on-year increase of over 75%. Tesla, in the same period, sold only over 60,000 vehicles, a year-on-year decrease of 14%. Its market share was 11% in 2021, but fell to 4% in 2025, while BYD climbed to 29%. Tesla's experience in China is seen by many commentators as the latest example of the CCP's nurturing and harvesting pattern. The strategy refers to the CCP first attracting foreign investment with its vast market and preferential policies, then having Chinese companies acquire the core technologies of foreign companies through technology transfer, joint ventures, and even industrial espionage, ultimately squeezing them out of the market. The Shanghai Gigafactory once accounted for half of Tesla's global production capacity, but during the cooperation, Chinese companies rapidly grew by leveraging Tesla's technology and business model, eventually becoming competitors themselves. This pattern has been repeatedly played out against foreign companies in China. Recently, a large number of core foreign consumer brands are seeking to withdraw from or partially withdraw from the Chinese market. This reflects both the weakness of the current purchasing power of China's middle class and the need for foreign brands to adapt and survive against the backdrop of changes in China's macroeconomic environment. On October 4th, Starbucks sold 60% of its China business to Boyu Capital. Then, on November 10th, Burger King's parent company RB announced the sale of 83% of its China business to CPE Capital. Costa Coffee and Peet's Coffee's China businesses are also being sold. The blogger points out that besides the catering industry, retail brands are also frequently making moves. Decathlon, a sporting goods giant, is reportedly selling a portion of its China operations to optimize its capital structure. IKEA's shopping mall business is also on the list of assets to be sold. A number of familiar foreign brands have already been sold or are seeking buyers. If it were just one foreign company withdrawing, it might not be surprising. However, the large-scale withdrawal of foreign capital now reflects a weakening of China's consumer market. One of the underlying reasons for the sluggish consumption is the decline of the middle class. The biggest pressures facing the middle class come from two sources: salary cuts and layoffs, and falling housing prices. The company has been laying off staff lately. I thought the announcement wouldn't come until next week, but they started talking about it today. My manager talked to me about it this morning. I'm not included in the layoffs, but my commission is canceled, meaning my salary has been reduced from $4,200 to $2,800. My social insurance and housing fund remain unchanged. Also, 3 people in my team have been laid off. These 3 people will receive N+1 compensation, but it's not much. The blogger is a migrant worker in Beijing. She said that everyone who leaves their hometown has a hard time. If they could find a job back home, who would want to be away from home? Layoffs are especially cruel for ordinary people working away from home, especially those who have started families and have mortgages. The pressure is even heavier. These days on the Beijing subway, you'll see people dragging suitcases back to their hometowns, their eyes filled with disappointment and heartache. Many don't even know how to explain things to their families, fearing they won't be understood. She lamented that working in Beijing this year has been incredibly difficult, but she believes that every cloud has a silver lining. The current hardship is only temporary, and things will eventually get better. I was laid off. Today is my last day at the company. I was notified of a pay cut a while ago, and now I'm being laid off. This layoff was really sudden. I went to the company today to process my resignation. After hearing the news, I told my best friend, who kept comforting me and telling me not to think too much. I've worked in the internet industry for 4 years, and I never expected to be laid off at 31. This is also due to the overall economic situation. The company's business isn't doing well right now, and some projects have been discontinued. Many people in our department were laid off. One of the laid-off colleagues had just bought a condo in his hometown last year and still has to pay the mortgage every month. The pressure of raising a child is even greater. The blogger said that the sudden layoff left her feeling hopeless about her future. At this age, she's not sure if she can find a suitable job again. She comes from an ordinary rural family and worked her way up from a small village to a big city. Now 31 and still unmarried, she admits she's very anxious. Her colleagues consoled her, advising her not to worry too much, to take a good rest during this time and to travel to relax. She understands that life isn't always smooth sailing and the road ahead is long. She will continue to strive forward.
我们要裁员了，今天早上刚到公司。
We're going to be laid off. This morning, as soon as I arrived at the company, the manager talked to us. The gist was that project revenue is poor, our team's efficiency is too low, and the finance department is demanding cost reductions. Although the manager tried his best to negotiate, it was to no avail. We still have to be laid off, and the tentative number is one person. We were all very calm when we heard this news, and some even wanted to be that one, which shows how long we've been in trouble. The economic climate has been bad these past 2 years, and everyone is somewhat used to layoffs and doesn't resist being laid off.
见惯了，并不抵触被裁员。
The blogger said that the company also conducted a round of layoffs last June, and almost everyone didn't receive the N+1 compensation standard. Most of these laid-off employees were young people who had graduated 1 or 2 years ago. Some only received half a month's salary, while others received a month's. As for who will be laid off this time, it's said that it hasn't been finalized yet. But no matter who it is, no one can truly relax, because even those who aren't laid off have to take on more work. So everyone has to continue working hard to improve performance until the company's business truly improves, or until the next round of layoffs.
宇航这边一个知名的上市 MCN.
A well-known listed MCN in Yuhong, after 6 months of layoffs, has reduced its staff from over 3,000 to just over 1,500, almost halving its workforce. And now they're changing the salary structure, which is essentially a disguised pay cut, halving the original base salary and using the proceeds for performance-based scoring. Many people are dissatisfied and have resigned without N+1 compensation. Without N+1, it's quite a loss for some long-term employees who have worked there for 4 or 5 years.
老员工其实还蛮亏的。
The blogger says that if laid-off employees choose to go through arbitration, it's actually a very complicated process. First, labor inspection agencies often don't side with the workers, but rather favor the companies because companies pay taxes. Second, arbitration requires collecting materials, submitting an application, and even waiting in line. Waiting times vary by location, sometimes taking 2 or 3 months before a hearing can be held. Even more troublesome is the possibility of the company filing a counterclaim. This entire process is time-consuming and exhausting, truly unbearable. With foreign companies continuously withdrawing, Chinese workers are facing a wave of unemployment, and this trend is intensifying. Recently, a very obvious signal has emerged. Japan is also accelerating its decoupling from China. Just browse Uniqlo and you'll see. If you look at the country of origin of the clothes, many used to be made in China, but now very few are. Most are made in Vietnam, Laos, Bangladesh, and other countries. Why not make it in China? Is it because our production costs are higher? That's just one excuse. The bigger reason is that Japan, along with the US and Europe, is decoupling from China. This is the dominant factor. The blogger believes that this so-called decoupling is clearly just Chinese people changing where they work. In recent years, with the trade war, many domestic companies have moved to Vietnam and Southeast Asia. Not just Foxconn and Luxshare, but even overseas companies have flocked to Vietnam. But guess what? They're all Chinese there, using Chinese equipment in their factories and being run by Chinese companies. Originally, these supply chains and business circles were all transferred from China, but now all our people and resources have suddenly moved overseas. To put it bluntly, this is desynchronization. Tesla's move away from China has attracted widespread attention. This is not an accidental event, but the result of multiple factors such as geopolitics, costs, and markets. Among these factors, tariffs are paramount. Tesla is wary of increased costs due to high tariffs and has chosen to follow suit to mitigate risk. Policy factors have also had a significant impact. In the current complex economic and political environment, policy uncertainty has forced Tesla to reevaluate its supply chain layout. The blogger says that adjusting Tesla's supply chain is not easy. China, as a major global supplier of auto parts, possesses a complete industrial system and abundant resources. Tesla will face numerous difficulties if it wants to completely decouple from the Chinese supply chain. For the global automotive industry, this change may trigger a reshuffling of the supply chain, prompting other companies to pay more attention to the diversification and stability of their supply chains. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.